Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is a lovely Tuesday morning, and you are joining the Leadership Nuggets on Tuesday morning with Mary May. As I always share, that before you make any decisions in your day, make sure you have your cup of coffee or tea. Today, I am rocking out tea. So I want to go ahead and jump into this leadership nugget that I have for you today. So I want to say happy Tuesday morning, happy October. Hopefully, October is serving you well as we are emerging and sustaining in this last and final quarter of the year and ensuring that your leadership and how it is that you position yourself is into the way that you choose to shape and live your life on the desires that you deserve. And so, like, in looking at how it is that you are a leader, no matter what your title is, you are still leading. You are responsible for a scope of services, scope of program delivery, scope of how it is that you show up. But you want to move from being invisible, overlooked, and underpaid. I am the strategist to help you be able to position yourself, to pull yourself away from hiding behind the curtain and having that ability to level your career up. So not only you would win, but all of those who are around you would also win because you are taking charge and realizing that you are a big thinker, but not too big. We're gonna get into that. But you are a big thinker, you are a visionary, and you know what your purpose is, and you want to be in alignment. And so when you think about how it is that you encounter roadblocks and challenges in those different scenarios on a day-to-day basis, sometimes when we feel invisible or we feel like we're being challenged in certain conversations or in certain spaces and not able to kind of really get that promotion, or we get the promotion and feel handcuffed in the different situations that we're in, then we tend to like kind of retreat or identify ways in which, okay, maybe if I just do this little bit of extra here, then they'll see me. Or maybe if I, stay extra hours, then maybe they'll see me. So the thing that I want to challenge you today and give you this nugget today is that I want to talk about, are you an over processed leader? Are you an over processed leader? Do you find that you are overthinking and over functioning and ruminating, but at the same time having other challenges that provide like a competing agenda? So if you are over functioning, I would want you to tell me, what is it that you over function about the most in your day to day? And you come into the room, you come into the space, good morning, and you sharing, what is something that you overthink about on a continual basis, be it in your morning routine, while you're driving into the workplace or walking into your workspace at home? What is it that you find that you are overthinking the most? Because as an overprocessed thinker, leader, you are, yes, the visionary. Yes, you are responsible. Yes, things are kind of sort of up to you in order for them to get done successfully. However, let's look at where you are over processing and over taxing yourself in a way that's not serving you. And so when you think about that, you have a glass ceiling and you're challenged with being able to kind of level up in a way that you feel like you want to position yourself in your career. Sometimes the most challenging thing is to look at ourselves and look at the productivity that we put our own personal role blocks in. So what is it that you are over functioning about? Like, if you were to sit back, if you were to take a meditation moment and say, what is it that I find myself that I'm doing, overdoing, underdoing, trying to figure out new ways to do this one particular task. If I could get this one task off of my plate on a day-to-day basis, what would that task be? That's the first question I want to ask you. Because you're over processing for a level of identifying something that maybe you don't have control over, or possibly that you want to make sure that it's so super correct that you end up enabling not only your leadership but those around you who are trying to grow and learn with you, because you may make a decision, you may make a suggestion, people begin to activate based off of what you said, and then you pull it all back. After they've exhausted time, they've done some research, they've tried to ensure that not only that they look good, but you also look good. So when you are in that over processing aspect, you are ruminating. You are, like ruminating is the act of kind of like looking at stuff over and over and over again, second guessing. But while you're doing that, you are over functioning. And over functioning is the part that makes you feel over processed. The over processed is you are, as they say around the way in the colloquial terms, you're doing too much. You are doing too much, but not doing a lot. It's like you got your foot on the gas pedal so that you can continue to go straight, but you brake it at the same time. The car is not going to move as long as you are ruminating and debating and going back and forth over what it is that you should do. If there has been an experience where you have been at a workplace and say maybe either micromanaged or criticized or offered feedback on this same lane of genius that you have, it's your lane of genius, it's your footprint in the leadership world. However, there's always growing room. Remember those 2 millimeter mind shifts that you can make, because there's always growing room. But when you have a challenge in delegating, or when you have a challenge in trusting the process that your team has the ability to really implement and execute on what it is that you need, then you begin to take away the gift on why you added them to your team. And if you're taking away the gift on why you added them to your team, then you are over processed. Because not only as the leader do you have the ability to delegate, but it's that trusting piece that comes into play, that somewhere you broke up with trust in your personal life, in your professional life, you in your own relationship with yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror, that you have now developed a coping skill that looks like over functioning, that is being over processed. And so when you're delaying your level of success, the over functioning that you engage in is really like delaying your opportunity to get the project done. It's like avoiding what could be the optimal thing to really say, okay, let me take a step back, let me do a brain dump. Because sometimes that might all mean that the things that you need to do is to do a brain dump. And it might be a solo brain dump, or it might be a team. Like have a team meeting and state what the problem is, or what the challenge is, or what the desired outcome. That would be a better way. What is the desired outcome for a project? And allow the voices of those around you to pour out of their minds what is actually happening. Because when you're in your own way and you're in the space of ruminating over the idea, over the outcome, how it's going to get done, all of that is doing is putting you at a disadvantage and not allowing, one, your lane of genius to show, but then your lane of genius to have collaboration over competition. Because you're not in competition with your team, you're not in competition with yourself. But when you are over processed on it having to be the most perfect thing that gets done, then you are fighting an inside voice of yours that will fall into that family of my hashtag, the daily divorce of self. because that daily divorce of self is going to manifest into something that is going to also keep you in that place of feeling like this over functioning pace in my day is what I need. Staying busy, staying in purpose, so you think is the part of your day that makes things tick. But sometimes that is an anxious response to also trying to be perfect. So when you think about the transformation that you would like to have in your leadership, remember your leadership is a metamorphosis. So your life and leadership are interchangeably impactful. And so when that is happening, that there's an interchange, they overlap, you have to be able to pause the brakes in the absence of the acceleration and be inclusive of those individuals who are around you that are there. Because the thing that will happen over time, if you continue to work at the pace of being over processed, your body and your productivity is going to let you know when you have been excessive and not optimal. I'm going to say that again. When you have continually worked at this acceleration and not putting the brakes on to take a moment to kind of pause and understand how it is that your footprint and your strengths in a situation level you up, your body and your productivity is going to let you know when you have been excessive and not optimal. Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit more. That whole excessive and not optimal. And if there's any thoughts, any comments, thank you for the comments so much so far on from you, Lisa, on Instagram. I appreciate that. If you have any thoughts or comments, anything that this is opening up for you, please feel free to share those in the comments. Because not only does it help you identify, acknowledge, and empower your voice, it also triggers and supports the other leaders who are in this conversation now or will catch us on the replay so that they can also understand. That's a different word. When you understand what your purpose is, you can now execute how it is that you move forward. So that understanding of how it is that you execute is knowing that your body and your productivity and your leadership, your life, all of these things are manifestations of the things in which you choose to implement and execute, but in success. So remember, we're always talking about moving from the old thinking patterns so that you can transform your mental brain, your mental muscle, and build up how it is that you may feel like you're over functioning, which is a level of being stuck. But then how can you move from the old mental thought process, way of being, thought of processing, thought of being a team member, thought of being a leader, so that you can move into productivity? So when you look at how your body responds to the rumination of you thinking and not taking that space that we just talked about for the ability to kind of just mind dump or have a process meeting on the outcomes, on the expected deliverables. Because a lot of times as leaders, when you are in this over process aspect, you have not clearly communicated what the outcome is. You are stuck in the process. And there's this thing called process versus content. So when you have a process, the process is you know what the outcomes are, you know what specifically you need to get done, you know how it is that you want to show up, but the content is all of those distractions that tend to sway you away from what is that main purpose. So when you're ruminating on how it is that you're going to get things done, your body is reacting with possibly a whole host of health issues that's going to also facilitate and magnify that distraction of avoidance or that distraction of you being over processed. And some of those health issues could be a migraine headache, it could be insomnia, and it can even be as excessive as irritable bowel syndrome, because it can manifest into a variety of different ways that our body is reacting in that fight or flight of us being over process. So when we're thinking about it, overthinking about it, underthinking about it, trying to figure out how you could do it solo is not the best way. Even if it is a collective of like a mastermind group that you have, or something that someone you can bounce off these ideas before you bring it to someone else. The challenge is that you have to be able to be mindful of knowing when the shift is actually needed. Because knowing when the shift is needed to move from one thing to the next, you're able to identify what you're overthinking really, what it is, who is serving, and what it looks like. Because the overthinking is really a paralysis. It's a perfection paralysis. It's the enemy of the peace and the progress. It's like both of them cannot coexist effectively together, because you have to you're in a competing agenda that really is not serving you, but it's not serving anyone else either. So your perfection paralysis is you implementing, or you leaning into what those handcuffs are. Those handcuffs that limit you is in the mindset of how it is that you choose to overthink. So if you're choosing to overthink, you're choosing to be locked and loaded on not leveling up your career, but staying stuck in the place where you have had the success or no success, and you're just like, okay, I'm becoming complacent. But complacent is not your lane of genius. So if you're choosing to be in that space of complacency, you're not living and leveling up in the way that you need. You're allowing the enemy of your peace to impede your ability to have progress. And so, wouldn't it be better to engage your team? Wouldn't it be better to engage those around you so that you can have like that emotional regulation that kind of manages your reactions, but also allows for feedback for it to be we can grow, versus it just one person solo focus where you're up all night. Your sleep habits are interrupted. Your ability to hang out with friends and loved ones and so forth like that is limited because your challenge needs a shift. When you need that shift, you need to understand how you understand the understanding of the conversation, of what those internal thoughts are that is allowing the distractions. Remember from previous conversations, distractions are serving the deficient version of you. And so if the deficient version of you tends to grab your attention more, then the deficiency is going to figure out how it can paralyze you in a way that you will be limited and not be able to kind of fulfill the outcomes and the deliverables that you're looking for. And so when you look at even more defining the whole perfection paralysis, you simply can't start a project. And because you simply can't start the project, it's because you're so concerned that you won't get it exactly right. And so then now you're battling across the field. You're battling across the field of there may be two options in your mind: to start and prove that you're not perfect. Wait, to start and prove that you're not perfect, you just don't start. You just don't get activated. You just don't say, okay, you know what? I need to invest in myself in a little differently so that I can level up my career. You choose to be paralyzed, you choose to be over processed, and you choose to allow the narrative that there is a glass ceiling that's holding you back. But when you look at how you can infuse the GPS is as a resource and as a tool, you begin to peel back the layers of what are those consistent themes that tend to distract you, and also learning how to break up with the marriage that you have with them, allowing them to creep in every single project that you have. Because if you don't start the project, if you don't problem solve the project, if you're not inclusive with that collaborative mindset around how individuals can work with you and understand the deliverables and the outcomes, because you as a leader have taken that moment. You've had a nice restful sleep. You've had your coffee, your tea, or your smoothie. You are ready to take on a day. You've done some exercise. You've done some meditation. You've put things in place. Then your optimal way of how your body responds and your productivity responds usually begin to work hand in hand. So then, therefore, the distractions that are trying to feed the deficient version of you, the limited version of you, the non-successful version of you begins to disappear. And we want it to disappear because as long as it has breath in our day-to-day activity, then we're not moving forward. And so that perfection paralysis, really, as a practitioner in leadership, really, I wish the word perfect and perfection could just go somewhere. Like it could just disappear and dissolve out of the language in which it is how we serve. Because the idea that we are not going to start a project because we're so concerned to get it exactly right, do it scared, do it wrong, you learn from that. What you don't learn if you don't start is the things that you did not prepare for. The only way you're going to know what you needed that you didn't know you needed is if you at least try with the skill set that you have. And along the way, giving yourself permission, giving yourself breathing room that perfect is not the reality. Done is an awesome reality, because done, you can now have a deliverable to whomever it is that you need to give it to, and you're not second guessing the quality of the work that you were able to provide, because you did it not only with yourself as your vision and your intention, you were inclusive of those who work around you and allowed to trust their outcomes. And so if you find that you're overthinking and learning through this conversation that you may be experiencing some of those over-processed symptoms like insomnia, like loss of appetite, like migraine headaches, and not realizing where they're actually triggering from, it's your body's like trying to shake you and say, look at us, we're here. It's going to show up as anxiety. It's going to show up as dysfunction. It's going to show up as challenges that you need to stop being, so rigid and say, you know what? I do need to have the outcome for this because they hired me for this. However, I need to be more mindful and give myself grace that I'm not holding myself in regards to the handcuffs or to the limitations, because all of that is what's happening in these 6 inches between your 2 ears. You're ruminating, you're thinking, you're overthinking, you're over processing. So I have a long comment that I want to be able to kind of acknowledge, and I need to read it because it is long. It can be so complex sometimes. I will use the word paralyzed, and as you stated, Miss Mary. I have a colleague who shared with me they have ADHD and that it takes longer for them to process things and thus cannot make speedy decisions. I did share it is okay to have people to restate the request, and say that you need a few minutes to reflect, etc., so that you give yourself time to process and not be so stressed to be perfect and without an answer. Absolutely. I would encourage you to, I think a couple days ago, I did a video on the usage of the words and response, I don't know. And I think that that will give some ideas around this perfection paralysis, because in a deliverable world, we believe that everything has to be instantaneous. Thank you for that comment too. We believe that everything has to be instantaneous. And the reality is that it doesn't have to be instantaneous, but we have to make sure that we don't show up in our deficient selves. Because if we show up in our deficient selves and we're saying, I don't know, I'm not sure, or I need time. Yes, the world has come to a place where we acknowledge and understand that anxiety is real. Post-traumatic stress disorder is real. ADHD is real. We can accommodate those team members by giving them the breathing room that they need. However, we don't have to have that as a crutch. We can again kind of peel back those layers, again, understanding the strength of what it is that they have learned and how they may kind of process or understand things a little bit differently, but give them the autonomy and the strength and the resiliency to understand that they can come back, they can restate the question, they can identify how being a high achiever, that they want to ensure that they get it right, but they don't have to get it perfect, because perfect is the fact that we're collaborating as a team together to ensure, good morning, to ensure that we are intentioned to strategize how we're going to be locked and loaded as a leader, and not over processing how it is that we function. So when you begin to develop and reframe how it is that you see these things, you develop the confidence of being a person who has completed something. So not through contemplation, where you were ruminating, overthinking, trying to be perfect. Perfect again, I wish they could throw it out the dictionary. You don't have to waste time thinking about the things that you want to do. Just do it. Because the thing about it is that when you are confident, your contemplation or your level of being able to complete something is, it shows up differently. It shows up differently even if you are the person that needs additional time to process the answer. Your completion and your success of your confidence shows up even when you have to have a personal journey conversation for having a mind up or having that as a team. You could do it individually first, but then be open to the team's feedback. Don't be so afraid and locked and loaded on the feedback the individuals around you who build you up as an individual is not a part of your leveling up process. Because as you level up and you learn the new things about you, you end up learning the ways that you can support others as well. So being afraid and not knowing the outcome helps you grow as a leader. So being mindful of how it is that you allow yourself to have that bandwidth of building yourself beyond a hack. Because if you're looking for the quick fix or you're looking for the quick way to get it done, you begin to challenge yourself to have the limitations, but then also that you're not really learning how to have sustainable progress, that you don't fall into being this over processed leader that is unapproachable, not open to ideas, not open to feedback, because sometimes the way that you may have brain dumped, the way that you have envisioned it, is not really matching the best roadmap or the best, way to getting to the outcome that's going to be optimal. Again, optimal for you, optimal for your brain, optimal for your heart and your inner body functioning, but then also optimal for how it is that you choose to show up as a leader for yourself and for those around you. And so you have to begin to know, okay, what is it that's triggering me? Because usually you're aware of what the triggers are, but you're always like, okay, I don't have time for that. Because the trigger might be taking you away from something. But sometimes we have to get up from the computer. We have to get up from the meeting that we're in and do something that's not related to what has charged our emotions, so that we can get a clear plan, a clear plate, a clean slate of shifting our energy so that we can, again, be our optimal selves but not be over processed. And so that would be my nugget for you for today, in regards to how it is that you are not, functioning from the over processing, and that you're recognizing how it is that you, when you need to make that shift, your body is always informing you on different ways to make that shift, but then you don't have to, it's suggested that you get clear on where it is the gray areas for you, where is your space of intention that you want to grow in, and how do you want to move in your transformation of undoing what you have been doing for a period of time that has been blocking you, or has been limiting you, or has been creating those handcuff moments where you believe and you value that there may be a glass ceiling. And I'm here to break the mystery that the glass ceiling is only by your unwillingness to just try it scared. Do it unapologetically, afraid, but make sure that you do it with collaboration and not competition. So my quote for today that I have in shaping this conversation is that the distance between your dreams and reality is called action. So the distance between your dreams and reality is called action. So I want to ask if there's any thoughts or any questions that came out from this nugget today. For you to feel free to drop those, in the chat now if you are here live or on the replay, or however it is that you are joining us in this conversation. And what will be that one thing that you can now do differently as you start your day? What is that one thing that you can now not have as a barrier in how you're going to function in this morning? If there's one thing that you could do and promise yourself that you're going to at least step out there in a collaborative, energetic, what is the one thing that you could do just between now and noon, or now and the next 3 hours in case you're catching this on the replay, that you can focus with intention and ensure that the distance between your dreams and reality is called action? What would that be? What would that be? In the meanwhile, I want to thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me on this Tuesday Leadership Nugget conversation. I hope that it has served you and will prepare you for not only today, but how you transform in the next couple of days, and how you rock out this final quarter of the year, hopefully positioning yourself so that not only you can rock out this year well, but then also how you could position yourself for the level of greatness that you choose to exist in living forward. And so I want to thank you for joining us for another Tuesday morning Leadership Nuggets with your cup of coffee. Again, I have tea. Didn't get a chance to grab any because I was like dropping the nuggets. Some people have smoothies. I know that join this conversation. So I hope that this has been helpful. If there's any way in which I can help you in that transformation of undoing how it is that you feel, live, and exist as an overprocessed leader, feel free to jump on my calendar, so that we can have a talk and we can talk about what that transformation can look like for you, and then how you can invest in yourself moving forward. And investing in yourself moving forward is that it could be a little not a little, it could be a small transformation of how you language your growth, how you language the messages that you give to your teams. It could be a 2 millimeter shift. So that's not a big thing, but it'd be a big thing when the outcomes of how your body and your productivity have more optimal outcomes. So until next week, catch me on the daily nuggets that I may, drop every now and then. But definitely see you next Tuesday with your cup of coffee or tea. Have a successful and phenomenal day. It's your girl, Mary May.